Okay. Um, so just letting some people know that I'm going live. Okay, just a quick one today. Need to be done in 15 minutes max. I thought I'd start with the BTC USD longs, which is an interesting chart. Either there's been a lot of longs that were taken sort of in this area here that have been liquidated, causing this significant drop, or basically people are panicking that we're going a lot lower, so they're figuring that taking profits while they can and they're getting out. It's something I've sort of looked back, and there's not really many instances where you see this. There's a little bit here where the Bitcoin price still sort of was actually still going up though, and then they were buying the dip through this stage. So I guess a little concerning. We did see something kind of similar here, but again they were kind of selling after this big rally as well, and then they just decided to jump out, and then it was flat, like not much happened for a while. But that was also after a lot of holders actually came into profit, you know, that were taking longs back in these sort of regions up here and even higher. So there's not a lot of similarities for this particular drop in longs, and it's still going. So that to me, I think it's people taking some profit and thinking that it might actually be going lower. So just an interesting data point to start with. All right. Oops, I'll use a different chart for this. So quick look at Bitcoin. Again, we got close to this bottom moving average at the pi cycle indicator. We look like we're going to be closing below this most traded volume line, as well as below the 50 EMA. So to me, I would expect to see at least the middle of this Gaussian channel, which probably a little bit below that, given that we've got some action in here as well. Realistically, somewhere in, where is it? Here we go. Need to figure I've got a favorite somewhere probably in around here would be a good spot for a bottom, or at least a wick down into that region. Does it happen tomorrow? I don't know. We've had a bit of volume coming through and a bit of volatility, so once we go down on the shorter time frames, I'll look at it in more detail. But I don't know that it'll stay in this region for very long. Probably towards the bottom of this would be the wick, I would think, which would recover this daily vector candle here as well, which, mind you, isn't on huge volume anyway. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm looking at the moment. Obviously, the bottom of this would get you into this highly traded zone as well. So given that we've got the value area low here as well, you know, maybe that's a little conservative if you were looking to take profit on a short. But yeah, that's, I don't expect it to go down this way too fast, but Bitcoin does like to move down quickly. As you can see, sort of 2 days, 2 big drops. If it's going to do it, it tends to do it pretty quick. Just because there's a lot of people longing and it wipes them out normally. And people panic. This is a very emotionally traded asset. So the other thing here is it's obviously bucking the trend of both the global liquidity and the S&P 500. This is also an interesting one. So the global liquidity ticking up. It's still sort of in this range, but that sort of a tick up could mean that maybe something's broken in the back end. That's kind of one thing I'm looking at carefully, because it might support more rallying in NASDAQ and S&P 500, but whether it's enough to support other assets is yet to be seen, I would think. Okay, actually I'll have a quick look at the NASDAQ. Let's do, yeah, generally pretty steady trend up. Just get rid of the cycle. Yeah, I mean, not a super strong candle given that it closed lower than it opened, but obviously the trend is still up. Can't really fight that. Same with the S&P. Got a pretty decent gap here. If we gap down on any of these, then like if we get an island reversal, which would be a gap up, gap down, then look for quite a bit more downside. But again, probably only talking 10 to 15% tops before the election, I would think. So Nvidia's still powering on. The other thing to keep in mind is the RSP is still flat. So this is the equal weight. It's still flat. IWM, the Russell, is actually down a little, but still kind of flat. We're realistically we're in no man's land. That there is sort of the middle of this whole channel that it's in. So yeah, we could see this continue up and bounce just as a generally trying to follow along with the S&P 500 sort of thing, but it's not strong. It hasn't been strong. We haven't made new all-time highs on the Russell since 2021, so that's kind of underlying the overall condition of the global economy for me. XLY XLP is interesting. That sort of opened up high and came down. It looks like we're sort of hit into this resistance level, so yeah, expect that to keep coming back down, which if that does come down, it's again showing that there's a disconnect between the S&P and the NASDAQ and reality of the overall economy. XLI is still flat. Did I didn't. I'm going to add this in here because it's annoying not having it. Versus gold. It's still struggling. It's hit this resistance and is coming down. So again, that's sort of a bit of an indicator that the economy's not great. Dixie has actually recovered most of yesterday's candle, a bit like what Bitcoin did the day before yesterday. Well, sorry, yesterday. technically. Not super impressive given that people are still expecting rates to come down, so could be a little bit of a fake out to the upside there. And interesting that the S&P and Nasdaq have gone up with the dollar doing that as well, as much as they have. So sorry, TLT, so Treasuries is pretty well breaking out actually. Treasuries has pretty strong kind of trendline breakout. Like that's a very clean breakout, retest, and it's just hit new highs on, like, cleared this level. So Treasuries could go on a pretty decent run actually. Bonds, geez, that's interesting. The bonds is sort of broken just above this short-term range here. If we get above this, then that's suggesting things are going to go higher. High yield, similar, although it's down a little on the day. Skew is an interesting one. Skew's still going up, so there's still support for this move at the moment. Copper is coming down a bit. Again, there's there's two separate parts of the market at the moment. It looks like there's the general market, the general economy. The signals are that there's a broken economy and shit could hit the fan anytime. But there's also signs that the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are going to keep going, and probably because of the big guys that are in there. Funnily enough, they were opened up and sort of closed low, but again, still trending up. Oil, yeah, so what we were hoping the other day looks like it may play out. We may get oil come back down and then find buyers again somewhere around that level. That, to me, if we get a turn on oil, means the S&P is probably going to have its correction. Just commonly kind of correlated. To 10-year is up, so that's going in the wrong direction for a recession still. And then if we go, let's go some shorter time frame Bitcoin. So I've got 3 minutes. We could be basing here actually for another little run up through the day. CCI is just ticking above the moving average. It's not a huge signal, but if we throw an RSI on this quickly, I'll throw that one on. So if we put an RSI on, it will be interesting to see if we are making some divergence here. Yep. If this comes back up, particularly through the day, so we've cleared most of the big trading in the US. Through the day, it looks like if we confirm this and actually break above here, then I'd expect a retrace into this level and then actually some upside, probably up to at least that wick, I would say, so 68,500 again. But overall, it's still trending to the downside. There's still more room that it can move in the downside direction. It's just, a bit of a retrace here would be kind of healthy for the overall move down, I think. If we fail on this retest, then yeah, expect more downside through the day. So yeah, New York's been having some fun. This candle was the open of New York, as was this candle here. That, I expected them to recover that a bit quicker than what they did, but still got the recovery of it. So as soon as you see that turn to the downside there, you know it's going to go further, just because they've recovered the liquidity that they wanted in this level here, and yeah, rip to the downside. Alright, that's all I got for you today. Catch I'm not going to do these this weekend. I need to rest. If anything interesting pops up, I might jump on, but otherwise, I think it'll be driven by the PC or PPI reading or something tonight.